This tiny Canadian nickel could be hiding in your pocket right now, and it might be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Face screaming in fear, most people have no idea what to look for. But today, I'll reveal the secret dates, rare errors, and the shocking values of Canada's most overlooked 5-cent coins. Don't spend it until you watch this. Episode 1. In the quiet pocket of history that was 1989, amidst the bustling streets of Toronto and the snowy sidewalks of Ottawa, a small piece of nickel was pressed into shape that would travel far beyond its humble beginnings. It wasn't a gold coin, nor a rare ancient treasure. It was a 5-cent piece, ordinary to most, but not to those who truly understood what lay beneath its silvery surface. The 1989 Canada 5-cent coin, a miniature monument to Canadian heritage, bore more than just a beaver and a date. It held stories, secrets, and even surprising value in the years that followed. Imagine the coin. Fresh off the presses at the Royal Canadian Mint. The air smells faintly metallic. The sounds of machinery echo like a heartbeat in the minting hall. This was no special commemorative edition. No gold plating. No selective colorization. Just a coin meant for pocket change. But as collectors know all too well, it's often the unassuming pieces that go on to become unexpected legends. The coin's obverse, as was tradition since 1953, featured the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin. By 1989, Canadians had already grown accustomed to the Queen's poised profile, but there was something elegant about its minimalist dignity. Her tiara gleamed with simplicity, a contrast to the shifting political and cultural landscape around her realm. In fact, 1989 marked the 200th anniversary of the French Revolution, an event that once shook the foundations of monarchy in Europe. Yet here, in the quiet and polite dominion of Canada, the Queen's likeness remained unchanged, a steady symbol on millions of coins. On the reverse side, the story of the beaver stood proudly, a timeless emblem of Canada's industrious spirit and its fur trade heritage. George Kruger Gray's iconic design had appeared on the 5-cent coin since 1937, and in 1989, it remained as strong as ever. The beaver, perched on its log beside a still river, captured something truly Canadian: persistence, patience, and quiet strength. It was more than a rodent to Canadians. It was a national icon. Beneath the imagery and symbolism lay the cold, hard facts of the coin itself. The 1989 Canada 5-cent coin was composed of cupronickel, an alloy of 75% copper and 25% nickel. It weighed 4.54 grams and measured 21.2 millimeters in diameter. Its edges were smooth, as they had been for decades. Over 87 million of these coins were minted, making it by no means rare, at least not at first glance. But as every collector knows, rarity doesn't always come from numbers. Sometimes it's condition, sometimes it's errors, and sometimes it's demand. This coin has become something of a sleeper hit in numismatic circles. Most would dismiss it, lumping it in with pocket change. But gradually, collectors began to realize that pristine examples, especially those struck with exceptional precision, were far harder to come by than initially thought. Coins that graded MS 66 or above became highly sought after, as few circulated examples survived without scratches, nicks, or discoloration. Time was not kind to most of the 1989 nickels, making high-grade survivors all the more coveted. And then came the auction. A quiet coin show in Toronto transformed into a moment of electric excitement. In 2023, a 1989 Canada 5-cent coin graded MS 67 by PCGS was placed up for auction at the Torex Coin Show, held at the Hyatt Regency Toronto. The bidding started modestly $50, then $100. But then, as eyes widened and paddles lifted, it leapt to $250, then $400. The final hammer fell at a stunning 680 Canadian dollars. For a 5-cent coin, this was not an error coin, not a double die, not even a proof strike. It was simply a remarkably preserved example of a standard issue. That auction became a turning point for this humble coin. Word spread fast among collectors, and interest surged. Dealers began combing through old rolls, Coin shops listed their best 1989 nickels at premium prices, and YouTube channels buzzed with excitement over this unsuspecting gem of a coin. But what made this coin so attractive? So greedy in its pull for attention? Perhaps it's the nostalgia. For Canadians born in the 1980s, this coin was part of everyday life, used to buy gumballs, traded during lunch breaks, lost between couch cushions. Now, decades later, that same coin evokes memories of youth, family, and simpler times. Perhaps it's also the story of undervalued greatness, the idea that even the most overlooked things can hold immense value when preserved and appreciated. Then there's the thrill of the hunt. Collectors today scour coin rolls, flea markets, and estate sales hoping to spot that one perfect 1989 nickel with clean surfaces, sharp details, and that mirror-like luster. Certification companies have seen a rise in submissions for this specific date, often from hopeful hobbyists eager to discover a gem hiding in plain sight. And yet, the true power of the 1989 Canada 5-cent coin isn't just in its monetary value. It's in its ability to connect between past and present, between grandparents and grandchildren, between history and now. It's a coin that brings people together, whether to reminisce, to collect, or simply to marvel at how a tiny disc of metal can spark so much joy. As the years go by, this coin will only grow in significance, not because of any official recognition or mintage anomaly, but because of its journey from spare change to collector's prize. In a world increasingly moving toward digital transactions and cashless economies, coins like this become relics, artifacts, and pieces of art all at once. And to think, it all started with a beaver. Episode 2. In the quiet corners of pockets and drawers, beneath cushions and long-forgotten jars of change, lie relics of history that often go unnoticed, simple coins that have stories to tell. One such coin, small in size but rich in legacy, is the 2008 Canada 5-cent coin. At first glance, it's just a nickel 5 cents of standard currency, something you'd barely consider twice. But for collectors, historians, and those with an eye for the past, this coin carries more than monetary value. It represents a fragment of Canadian culture, national symbolism, economic changes, and yes, even surprising auction stories that have caught the attention of numismatic enthusiasts across the globe. To truly appreciate the 2008 Canada 5-cent coin, one must first understand the landscape of Canadian currency and the evolution of this humble denomination. The 5-cent coin has a long and storied past in Canada, dating all the way back to 1858, when the province of Canada first issued coins of various denominations. Back then, the 5-cent piece was made of silver and much smaller, resembling what collectors now refer to as the fish scale due to its tiny size and shimmering appearance. But as the world changed, so too did coinage, shifting from silver to nickel and eventually to steel compositions. By 2008, the 5-cent coin had undergone several transformations, reflecting not only changes in technology and metal costs, but also shifts in artistic representation and national identity. The coin from this particular year, minted by the Royal Canadian Mint, followed the now classic design that many Canadians had grown up with, a design that speaks not only to the beauty of nature but also to the enduring character of the nation itself. The obverse of the coin features the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, crafted by Canadian artist Susanna Blunt. Unlike earlier renditions of the monarch, this version was strikingly different. Gone was the tiara that had graced earlier effigies. In its place stood a modern, more relatable depiction of the Queen, serene, confident, and slightly smiling. This change, implemented in 2003, was meant to reflect her status not just as a monarch, but as a human being, a grandmotherly figure known around the world. But it's on the reverse side of the coin where Canadian pride is boldly displayed. There, sitting contentedly on a log, is the unmistakable beaver, an animal as iconic to Canada as the maple leaf itself. The beaver has long symbolized industriousness and resilience, qualities that resonate deeply within the Canadian spirit. The image, originally designed by G. Kruger Gray in 1937, remains largely unchanged to this day, standing as a testament to timeless artistry. Framed by the words 5 cents and Canada, along with the date 2008, the beaver rests above a pair of crossed maple leaves and the initial K.G, honoring the original artist. The coin itself was struck from a multiply-plated steel composition, a decision made for both cost efficiency and durability. With a weight of 3.95 grams and a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, the coin fits neatly into the palm of one's hand, a piece of metal carrying over a century of tradition. It was minted in vast quantities, with the Royal Canadian Mint producing tens of millions of these nickels to keep up with everyday circulation, while the average Canadian may have pocketed one without a second thought. Numismatists were already beginning to notice subtle variations and strike anomalies that made some of these coins more desirable than others. 2008 marked a period of global economic uncertainty. The financial crisis that year would go on to shake world markets and redefine banking systems. In Canada, while the impact was less devastating than in other nations, the ripple effects were still felt. Coinage, in such times, takes on new relevance, not just as currency, but as historical markers. Holding a 2008 Canada 5 cents coin is to hold a fragment of that turbulent period, a small but significant emblem of resilience during challenging times. Collectors often seek coins from such periods, not just for their metal content or aesthetic design, but because they serve as artifacts of societal change. The 2008 nickel, though common in circulation, represents a snapshot of a world on the brink of transformation. As such, it has become a point of interest for those building sets based on years of economic significance. But not all 2008 Canada 5 cents coins are created equal. As with many mass-produced items, there are instances where slight minting errors or conditions of near-perfect preservation elevate a coin from common currency to collector's prize. Some 2008 nickels exhibit what's known as die cracks, where stress on the minting die produces small raised lines on the coin's surface. Others may have double strikes or off-center impressions, each one a unique twist in the coin's story. Such variations, when authenticated by professional grading services like PCGS or ICCS, can fetch far more than face value on the auction block. Indeed, some pristine examples of the 2008 Canada 5 cents coin, particularly those graded MS67 or higher, have garnered surprising attention in online numismatic marketplaces. In one notable auction held through eBay Canada in 2023, a beautifully preserved specimen graded MS68 by ICCS sold for a striking 145 Canadian dollars. While that may not seem like a life-changing amount, consider that this is nearly 3,000 times the coin's face value. In another case, an MS67 coin with an unusual die rotation error sold at a local numismatic convention in Montreal for 185 Canadian dollars. Catching the eye of collectors specializing in mint errors, it's in these auction houses, coin shows, and online forums where the true excitement builds. Collectors from across North America, sometimes even as far as Europe and Asia, compete for these seemingly mundane pieces, hoping to secure a key addition to their sets or investments. What's most fascinating is how these coins, once exchanged for candy or lost under car seats, are now commanding attention in the numismatic world. Stories abound of individuals who, upon cleaning out old coin jars or inherited collections, stumbled upon a mint-condition 2008 nickel and unknowingly held a small treasure in their palm. And yet, even beyond the condition and rarity lies another layer of appeal: nostalgia. For many Canadians, the 2008 5 cents coin represents a simpler time, a period before smartphone ubiquity, before major global shifts reshaped the social landscape. Children of that era remember being handed nickels for gum or slipping them into vending machines. The sound of coins clinking in a piggy bank, the feel of them stacking on a tabletop, these memories are tied intrinsically to small pieces of metal that few thought twice about keeping. But for the wise collector, or even the curious viewer of this video, there's value in awareness. Understanding what makes a coin like the 2008 Canada 5 cents special isn't just about profit, it's about connection. It's about recognizing how a tiny object can carry within it the echoes of industry, artistry, economy, and everyday life. It's about honoring the craftsmanship of the Royal Canadian Mint and the symbolism of the beaver and the queen, captured forever in steel and nickel-plated brilliance. Today, as physical currency begins to fade in favor of digital transactions, coins like the 2008 nickel gain even more cultural importance. They are relics in real time, still in use, yet increasingly recognized as artifacts of an era that is rapidly transforming. Collectors are already bracing for the future, knowing that in a decade or two, coins from the early 2000s may become rarer in high-grade condition than many believe. And this awareness is driving a new generation of numismatists to look closely at what they once ignored. From auction floors in Toronto to online bidding wars on platforms like Heritage Auctions and eBay, the demand continues to rise. Professional coin graders and dealers note a trend of increasing submissions of 2000s-era Canadian coinage as hobbyists hunt for overlooked gems in their collections. In fact, some dealers have begun offering premium prices for full rolls of uncirculated 2008 nickels, hoping to be the first to discover high MS grade examples or rare error variants. It's a modern-day gold rush, only this time, the gold is steel and the treasure is 5 cents. And so, as we look at this modest coin, an everyday object that fits easily in a pocket or slips unseen into a handful of change, we are reminded that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones hiding in plain sight. The 2008 Canada 5 cents coin is more than just currency. It's a miniature time capsule, a symbol of national pride, and, for those who know where to look, a glittering opportunity waiting to be discovered. Episode 3. In the quiet hum of pocket change, some coins whisper stories. Others scream history, design, and numismatic legacy. And then there's the 2009 Canada 5 cents coin, a small, seemingly simple piece of metal that carries more intrigue than meets the eye. At a glance, it may look like every other nickel that passed through vending machines and coffee counters. But in the world of collectors, it's far more than spare change. Canada's 5 cent coin has a lineage stretching back to the 19th century. And while many know the iconic beaver design, few realize that each year carries its own tale. By 2009, this coin wasn't just another in the run. It arrived during a time of economic recovery after the 2008 global financial crisis, a moment when governments, mints, and people alike reevaluated value, both literal and symbolic. The coin, struck in a time of uncertainty, didn't feature any commemorative changes. It bore the classic design Canadians had known and loved. On the reverse, a stoic beaver atop a log, framed by the words 5 cents and Canada in the year 2009 beneath. Above it, the initials KG, a tribute to artist George Edward Kruger Gray, who first designed the image in 1937. It's a scene synonymous with Canadian resilience, hard work, and the wilderness that shaped the nation's soul. On the obverse, of course, sat the modern effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Susanna Blunt. Unlike the earlier regal portraits with crowns and ceremonial flair, this one was different. Introduced in 2003, it depicted Her Majesty in a more modest, personal fashion, without a crown, a symbol of maturity and accessibility. For many Canadians, this portrait gave a more human face to a monarch they saw daily in their wallets and purses. But what made the 2009 5-cent coin particularly interesting wasn't just its design, which had remained unchanged for decades. It was how it was made, the materials used, and the unusual market behavior that followed. In 2000, the Royal Canadian Mint had transitioned away from traditional nickel due to cost and health concerns, replacing it with a multiply-plated steel composition. By 2009, the process had been refined, but it came with its own quirks. Magnetic behavior, corrosion resistance, and striking quality varied slightly across batches. For collectors, such nuances matter. Some 2009 nickels showed minor die shifts, slightly off-center strikes, or unexpected luster. While none of these were officially recognized as major errors, small differences meant some pieces started gaining attention on auction blocks. In coin collecting, provenance and rarity are king. Even a common year like 2009 can yield hidden gems, mint state coins that escape circulation, uncirculated rolls stashed away by sharp-eyed collectors, or a batch struck with slightly higher than average brilliance. Over time, this led to a surprising surge in interest in the 2009 Canada 5 cents coin. Take, for example, a rare instance in 2022 when a certified MS 67 2009 5 cent piece graded by ICS International Coin Certification Service was auctioned on eBay for 85 Canadian dollars. That might sound modest, but for a modern nickel, it's significant. What's more, a roll of 40 uncirculated 2009 nickels, still sealed in original mint wrapping, sold through Heritage Auctions Canada for over 300 Canadian dollars. To a casual observer, it's just loose change. But to a numismatist, it's a chance at owning a pristine slice of Canadian minting history. But what drove that price? It wasn't just condition. It was timing. After 2006, the Royal Canadian Mint began experimenting more aggressively with multiply technology, creating coins that were harder to forge, more cost-effective, and environmentally efficient. By 2009, the Mint had perfected that approach. The nickel that year stands as one of the best examples of that process: clean edges, consistent color, and strong detail under magnification. And there's something else: the psychological allure. Collectors often chase complete year sets. To finish a full run of 21st century Canadian nickels, you can't skip 2009. And if you're aiming for mint state across the board, the hunt gets tougher. That's where the value creeps up. A sharp, well-struck 2009 specimen in pristine condition becomes not just another nickel, it becomes a necessity, a treasure, a key to completing the puzzle. One collector forum. A user recounted how he found a perfectly struck 2009 5 cent coin in a coin roll hunt. He had almost discarded it, but something caught his eye: the gleam, the strike, the fine detail in the queen's portrait. He sent it off for grading, and weeks later, it came back MS 68. Soon after, he listed it at a private collector's event in Toronto. The final sale? A cool 120 Canadian dollars, more than 2,400 times its face value. That's the magic of numismatics. It's not just about age. It's about condition, history, scarcity, and the story each coin tells. The 2009 nickel might never make headlines the way a 1921 5 cent coin would, the so-called king of Canadian nickels, but for modern collectors, it sits at a unique crossroad of accessibility and potential. Some even speculate about varieties that haven't yet been cataloged: subtle differences in plating, microscopic doubling in the date, or reverse dyes that may have worn unevenly over the year. Every time a new one is discovered, collectors take notice and interest spikes. And let's not forget location. One of the more notable 2009 Canadian 5 cent auctions took place in Vancouver in 2023 at the Vancouver Coin and Stamp Show. There, a high-grade specimen, ICCS MS 67 with mirror-like fields, was estimated at 50 Canadian dollars. It sold for $95 after a spirited round of bidding. Just one more reminder that the market for even modern minor coinage can surprise you. From pockets to velvet-lined cases, the journey of the 2009 Canada 5 cents coin is a tale of unnoticed beauty finding its stage. In a world obsessed with gold and silver, sometimes it's the humble nickel that makes collectors pause and pay.